No appointment necessary with the help of our God. Psalms 121, verses 1 and 2. I will lift my eyes to the mountains. From where shall my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Philippians 4, 12 and 13. I know how to get along with humble means, and I know how to live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 16. Therefore, let us draw near with confidence to the throne of grace, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. A lot of times we don't focus on that verse there much, but it tells us to draw near to the throne of grace, and that we're to draw near to that throne with confidence, with boldness, with expectation, not to be judged or condemned, because we're coming to the throne of grace and bringing all of our troubles and trials and problems and everything that we could be suffering with here in life, to be able to find grace and comfort so that we can receive that in the time of our need. Now, think about it for a moment. We have direct access straight into the Father's presence. Not only do we have access, we have an invitation to come. There's nothing blocking you. There's nothing preventing you from getting there but you. Think about to get an appointment with some people, even somebody prominent here on the south side of town, would be extremely difficult to get a time to where you could get in to see them. You would never probably make an appointment, personal appointment with a governor or with the President of the United States. These powerful people, we probably never would get in their presence to be able to share anything with them. But yet the God of the universe, the creator of the universe, of you and me, we have access, direct access, an invitation to come anytime we want to come. Someone who loves us, someone who cares for us, someone, as the previous verses in Hebrews 4 says, that can sympathize with our struggles that we're going through here on this earth. He knows how we feel. He knows our pain. He knows our circumstances. And He loves us. And He cares for us. And He wants to give grace and comfort to us, to help us in the time of our need. Maybe He will give you power so that you can live out Philippians 4:13, that you can do all things through Christ which strengthens you. Maybe He will give you wisdom from above to where you'll know what to do and when to do it and how to do it. But it says that we can find that help in time of our greatest need. Think about it for a minute. With the help of your God, in your weakness you can find strength. With the help of your God, in your most despairing moments that you go through during the week and in life, you can find hope. With the help of our God in trials that are causing overwhelming stress in your life, you can find faith to where you can stand on the promise of God, and you can know that He is not only there, but He is with you, and He is beside you, and He's going to give you what you need to be able to get through it. With the help of your God, in the midst of your brokenness, you can find healing with all those pieces that may be scattered up and down the road of your life. You can't gather them all and put them back together, but He can. With the help of our God, He can put all of those pieces and arrange them back in a better order than they've ever were before. With the help of your God in the midst of chaos, He can bring control. You know, I told Jesse this morning, and this is how I feel sometimes, maybe you feel this way sometimes, is that you just feel like nothing is under your control. And you know what? It's really not. It's really not. We can't control anything. But you know how easy it is for us to spin. And we can really start spinning quick when we feel like we have no control over anything. When you can't dial the knob back on this circumstance, you can't dial the knob back on this person, you can't twist over here and make this come closer. You just feel like you have no control. And you know what? We don't. We don't have any control, but we have access to the one who can bring control, the one who can give us what we need spiritually so that we are ruled by the spiritual and not by the emotional, because the emotional says, I'm out of control. I want to fix it. I want a remedy, and I want it now. I want to know exactly what to do, and I want to know what to do right now. Doesn't always work that way, does it? Because God could be using whatever that it is, whatever that trial is, to be able to do something in you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Think about the storms in your life and the trials in your life that you're struggling with right now. The storm is not where you meet the enemy. The storm is where you meet your God. Don't miss this now. I'm not saying the enemy can't make you feel certain things and be tempted towards certain things, but in the midst of the storm is not where you're going to fight your enemy. That's where you're going to meet your God. That's where you're going to see your God in a new, visible way that you have never seen Him before, so that He can do something in your life that He's never done before. You know, I'm the same way as you are. No matter what it is, what the storm is, we're always looking for relief. Just give me relief from the storm. We not only want relief, if we're really honest, we want to be delivered from it altogether. But you know, being delivered from the storm, or even relief from the storm, is not the best thing that can happen to you and me. You know, the best thing that can happen to you and me is that we would be conformed to the image of Christ. That's the best thing that could happen, is for my life to spin so out of what I would say control, is to where God doesn't come down and give me relief to where I feel like I got control. That's not the best thing that can happen. The best thing that can happen is for me to trust Him, and for Him to do a transforming work in me and to conform me more to the image of Christ. That's the best thing that could happen. We got an invitation to be able to come right into His presence, no matter what it is that we're struggling with and dealing with. Number one, right there in your notes, whatever it is you're struggling with today, know this: God is taking you somewhere better. God is taking you somewhere better. Now, the storm, the trial, is designed to prepare you. The storm is designed for you to meet your God and see your God, because God is taking you from the storm to the other side of the storm. So what he's doing with you right now in the midst of the storm is preparing you to meet the enemy that's going to face you on the other side of the storm, because God is taking you somewhere better. God is taking you somewhere to where he is preparing you to do something greater with your life, to have a greater impact, to have more knowledge of God, more understanding of God, and to be equipped to be able to face the enemy and to win and to overcome, and in the process reach others for Christ that would have never been reached if you hadn't have went through what you went through. But because you went through it, you got the knowledge and the anointing from God to be able to go to the other side of the storm and to be able to minister in a way that God used to be able to turn the light on for others to be able to see Jesus. And they would have never seen Jesus through your life if you didn't go through that storm. So the storm, in the middle of the storm, is where we meet God. That's where transformation takes place. That's where we're grounded. That's where we're made stronger. That's where we are prepared to be able to do something bigger for God, to have greater productivity in our lives that we would have never had if we did not go through the storm. Now think about it. God is taking you somewhere better. He's taking you to a better life. He's taking you to a better opportunity. He's taking you to a better place, maybe a better location, and that better is the place of blessing, which is God's will for your life, whatever that might be. It could be different for everybody in this room, but God is taking you from A to B. He's using the storm to take you from one side to the other side, and he's always taking us somewhere better. Never forget that. It's always better. So you can't escape the trial or the storm. You can't run from it. You can't hide from it. You can't even skip them. They're there, and they're designed to take you further, to take you to greater places and better places. And no matter if we submit to it or rebel against it, guess what? You don't get to skip the storms and avoid the storms. Let me give you 3 examples here. First of all, storms come to those who forsake all for him. Now, let's think about the disciples for just a moment. Jesus appears to them on the Sea of Galilee as they had been out fishing, and he told Peter and James and John to follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. What did it say? It says right there in Matthew 4 that they dropped their nets and they followed him. So they forsook all to follow Jesus. They turned their back completely on the life that they knew. They dropped their nets, they dropped their career, they dropped it all to follow Jesus. So they forsook all. We're all familiar with the story in Mark chapter number 4, where Jesus and the disciples, especially Jesus, was doing ministry, and he looked at the disciples and he told them, let's get into the boat and let's go to the other side of the lake. It says that in Matthew 4:35. So in Matthew 4:35, they get into the boat, and it says there in verse number 36 that they left the crowd behind. So that is a picture for us that they get into the boat with Jesus and they leave the crowd behind. That is a picture of me and you leaving the world behind to go with Jesus to the better place that he has for us, to be able to use us in a greater way. So they get in that boat and they're going to the other side. And while they're out there in the middle of the lake, verse 37 says that a raging storm comes up. Now, Jesus said, let's go to the other side. And right in the middle of their journey, they're in the middle of a storm, and the disciples are panicking. They're out of control. They're wanting to be able to turn the sails, turn whatever they can turn, the rudder, whatever, to be able to gain some control. And lo and behold, they find Jesus sleeping down in the bottom of the boat, and they wake him up. And they say, we're about to perish. Don't you care about us? Well, he does care. But he was comfortable and okay because he knew they were going what? To the other side. He does come and he does calm the storm. But the storm was not where they was going to meet the enemy. The enemy was waiting for them on the other side of the lake. And I'm going to like break this down so you can understand it here in just a little bit more. But first of all, I want you to see that storms come to those who forsake their all for God. Second of all, storms come to those who follow with their all. You not only forsake all, you follow with your all. In other words, you're in there, you're locked in with God. I mean, you're locked into whatever your life is locked into. Ministry is number one. Your job, your career, what you do in the community, it's all about God. It's all about honoring God. It's all about displaying the right attitude and having the right values in your life. I mean, your ministry is geared. You're giving, you're serving, laboring, walking, and obeying, giving your all for Jesus. But yet, there's still times that your life and my life is going to be turned upside down and inside out. There are no exemptions. You can forsake your all, and follow him. You can follow him with your all. I've heard so many people say through the years, I don't understand why God is allowing this in my life. I serve him. I love him. I honor him. I give. I've gotten my life turned back around. Why is God allowing this in my life? For reasons beyond what you could ever wrap your human comprehension around, God is actually doing something in your life to take you to a better place, a deeper understanding of who God is, to be more grounded and more rooted so that he can use you in a greater, more dynamic way. Even when you get to the other side, which you will, you might not know why exactly you had to go through. But I guarantee you, a lot of times we might not see exactly everything that God has done in us and through us, but other people do. Other people see that you're different than what you were. You're different. You shine in a different way. You reflect in a different way. Things that used to bother you are not bothering you anymore. People see that in your life. And then that's what happens when we go through the storm. Yes, when we love him, and when we love him with our all, we still have to go through the storm. Third of all, see, storms come to those who are fulfilling their destiny for him. I mean, all the way, forsaking all, following him with your all, and now you're fulfilling your destiny that God has for you. I mean, you're lock, stock, and barrel. You have zeroed in on exactly who you are and your purpose here on this earth. You are fulfilling it. You are living it. You are fleshing it out. You are being an example and a light to the world. But guess what? You still have to go through storms. It's just a part of the process. You think about some of the people that we refer to in God's Word. Daniel as a young man. Daniel, I mean, we could refer to Daniel. We've preached in the book of Daniel, going chapter by chapter, and here he was as a young man, purposing in his heart that he would not defile himself. And God used this young man in a very hostile environment that was rooted up from his homeland, from the life that he knew, ripped away from his parents and all of his family and taken to Babylon. I mean, why, God? Why would you allow that? God, I'm loving you and I'm following you as a young man. But yet God had a purpose for Daniel in Babylon. And as he honored God in Babylon, he kept rising to a different level. God kept taking him to a better place. God kept elevating him to where he had more influence, to where he had greater impact, to where he was influencing not just those that were right around him. He was influencing the whole community because God kept elevating him through each and every storm. As he would take him to the other side, he would use him in a greater, more dynamic way. You think about Joseph. Joseph, same way. Went through one storm after another. His family turning their back on him, getting accused of things that, and being thrown in jail for things and crimes that he did not commit. But through it all, every storm, it said the Lord was with Joseph. God met Joseph right there in the storm, and the Lord was with him, and he saw the Lord right in the midst of a storm. So when he got to the other side of the storm, he was able to be faithful and to be able to do whatever it was that God elevated him to do. And that's the reason why all of these people that we talk about and that we honor, that God has honored, that we look up to as examples, they had to go through what they had to go through for God to use them the way that he used them. God has taken you somewhere. The disciples, they get into the boat knowing that Jesus said, we're going to the other side. He didn't say we're going to the middle of the lake and we're going to sink out there in the middle. He didn't say we're going to the middle of the lake and we're going to face the enemy. They wasn't facing the enemy. You know who they were facing? They were facing themselves. They were facing their fears, their struggles, their emotions. You know, and that's what some of us struggle to get to the other side. Because just like I said this morning, we feel like we're not in control. And what we feel and our struggles that we're feeling in this fleshly body is not the enemy that is deflating us and defeating us. It is us seeing ourselves for what we are. And I know and you know that you can't trust yourself. You can't manipulate a plan. You can't figure it all out. You can't make a miracle happen. You can't bring a breakthrough out of right field or left field. You know as well as I know there's only one way through that storm, and you got to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your understanding, but you've got to acknowledge him in all of your ways and let him direct your paths. You know as well as I know, in the middle of that storm, you are facing yourself. What will you do? What will your choice be? Will you follow God? Will you not follow God? Will you trust him? Will you let the spiritual rule over the physical? you're emotional. The emotional part is it's strong. The emotional part of our makeup is overwhelmingly strong. But the spiritual can only dominate over the emotional as you take the Word of God and the promises of God and bring that to a present reality in your life through obedience. God's going to get you to the other side. He's going to get you out of the boat. And when you get to the other side and when you get out of the boat, guess who's going to be there? The enemy. You're the enemy right here. Now that God has got you to the other side, He's ready for you to put your boots on the ground and do something big for God. So just know that going through that storm is boot camp, preparing you for whatever it is God's got for you on the other shore. And you know, just like I know, there's a lot of times we make a quick trip across from one side to the other. There are other storms that are longer, to where God is producing something deeper and doing a work inside of us that we don't even know exactly what He's up to. But no matter what the case is, when you get to the other side, put your boots on the ground, strap up, and get ready to do something big for God, because He has taken you there for His purposes, for such a time as this, to be able to reflect Him and honor Him and to be used by Him. Number one, God's taking you somewhere better. Number two, God is teaching you something greater. He's teaching you something great. Think about it for just a moment. He's teaching you something about you. He's teaching you something about life. He's teaching you something about Him. He's teaching you something about others. Guess what? Others are always going to be what others are. You can't control others. Others are going to make their decisions just like they've always have. So God's teaching you something. He's teaching you something about you and how you relate to life and how you relate to Him and how you relate to others. He's teaching you how to love others more. Maybe you think you love others now. He's teaching you how to love others even more, how to have compassion for others even on a different level. He's teaching you to be unselfish more, because no matter how far you have come in this life, no matter how much of a giver you may be, God can still take you further. There's still selfishness on the inside of you that's rooted there that maybe you don't even see. And God wants all of you to be wrapped up in all of Him. And He wants you to be the very essence and character of Jesus, walking the streets of your life, lighting them up, showing compassion, giving, praying, and doing the work that God has put you here to do. But He's also teaching you perseverance, discipline. We don't like discipline. I know from working a lot of young people, the best workers that you ever get are those that played serious sports like Little League sports, to where it was more than just casual, but they played at a more serious competition level. They're the best. Why? Because they've already developed some disciplines. Like, we have to go to practice, we have to work hard, we have to do ABC. All those things, that's why youth sports and all of those things are so big. That's the reason why us as parents, giving our kids responsibilities and different things that they have to do and different things that you expect from them is so critical in life, because it's teaching them discipline. It's teaching them that in life there are no free passes. You got to do A, you got to do B, you got to do C. But discipline for the moment just doesn't sound like something I want to sign up for, because there's only one way to get it. And that's through something difficult and hard. I remember I used to hate, I loved to play football when I was in school, but I hated, back in when we were doing, we'd have those. Now they've changed everything because so many people have died of heat strokes and stuff. They've changed everything. We'd have those two-a-days. I'm about to forget the two-a-days. I mean, just having to stay every day. Everybody else is going home, eating their cookies and ice cream and the vanilla wafers, and you got to go to football practice and sweat and run and hit and all that. But if you wanted to play Friday night, you had to be there Monday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon to be there Friday night. If God's going to take you to the Friday night lights in your life to where Jesus can really be lit up and Jesus can really do something through you, he's going to have to bring some discipline in your life to where day after day after day you are persevering. And that perseverance of pushing and pushing and pushing is producing discipline, producing your roots going deeper and taking you to another level. So think about it this way. The storm is blocking you from the place of blessing, so you got to push through for that. But the storm is also equipping you for a greater ministry on the other side. Not just to be blessed, to be taken to a better place, but to be blessed, taken to a better place, to be able to do something greater for God. Don't quit. God's taking you somewhere better. Don't quit. Don't give up. Blows my mind how many people quit and how many people get up. They say, well, I did. People are always going to be people. People are always going to disappoint you. People are always going to let you down. People in church are always going to disappoint you, always going to let you down. You're not doing it for people. You're doing it for God. And if you realize you're doing it for God, then you realize it's not personal. People are not doing it just to be personal at you. Some people might be doing it and they don't even know why they're doing it or how they're doing it. But you and I can't quit. We can't give up. We got to keep persevering. We got to keep pushing, because God is taking us somewhere better and God is teaching us something greater. Sure, it's hard. Sure, it's difficult. But God said, weeping may endure for the night, but joy is going to come in the morning. So 4 things here up under that. If you're writing in your notes, you can jot them down. You've got the problems against you, A. You got the people against you. You got the push that is against you. And then you got the power that is with you. Now think about it a moment. I kind of skipped over it a second ago, but I didn't notice this till this week. I was reading something, and we always think, and even me, always think, when you're in the middle of a storm, you're facing the enemy. I'm not saying the enemy can't be in the middle of your storm and tempting you there, but that's really the place to where you meet God. And if you think about the disciples, they're going from one side of the lake to the other. I don't know how many of you remember what happens as soon as their boat pulls up to the shore in Mark chapter number 5, but there was a man that was there that was possessed with many demons. So immediately there the demon is, there the devil is. He has put his influence on that entire area and that entire territory. Everybody there was frightened of him. Everybody was scared of him. He walked amongst the tombs, it said, amongst the dead. So therefore, everybody was scared. The influence and the darkness was everywhere in that territory. And Jesus had a purpose from going from one side to the other. He had a purpose for the disciples. And when they got there off of the boat, the enemy was there waiting. And Jesus put his boots on, got out, and dealt with the enemy. You remember, he asked him what his name was, and he told him it was Legion, which meant there were many demons, many darknesses. And he winded out casting out those demons into the pigs, and the pigs went crazy. Remember all those verses there? happens on the other side of the storm. That's where the enemy's waiting on you at. But you can't ever get there and get out of the boat if you don't ever get across the lake. And the only way you get across the lake is you got to face yourself and your struggles, and you got to look to God, and you got to trust Him. You got to realize you can't control it. You got to realize you can't manipulate it. You got to realize I got to trust Him. Whether I understand it or don't understand it, I got to lean on Him, and I got to follow Him with my all. Let me give you a few verses here. Isaiah 50:10 says, "Who is among you who fears the Lord, that obeys the voice of His servant, that walks in darkness and has no light? Let him trust in the name of the Lord and rely on his God." Isaiah 41:10, "Do not fear, I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you." Isaiah 43:2, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be scorched, nor will the flame burn you." Isaiah 43:16, "I will make a new way through the sea and a path through the mighty waters." We could go all through the Old Testament, come over into the New Testament, and we've got verse after verse, promise after promise, that there is a God that is there, willing and able, wanting to assist you and assist me, wanting for us to come to that throne of grace so that we can find what it is that we really need. What it is that we really need is not control, is not to have our hand on the button. What it is that we really need is comfort in God's grace, to be able to take another step and to be able to keep moving in the direction that God has you going in. That's what you need. But you only get it when you're in His presence. But a lot of us don't get into His presence, and we don't pray, and we don't seek Him, and we don't come and draw near to Him with confidence and bring our requests to Him and our struggles to Him and our pain to Him and our anxieties to Him. And the only thing that's keeping us from that is you. Don't be talking about the enemy is keeping you from being able to get in the presence of God. Ain't nothing keeping you from getting there but you. Because no matter what the enemy does or no matter what the enemy says, you can walk right past him and go right into God's presence. And you can go there when you feel like it, and you better go there when you don't feel like it. Because just because you don't feel like it don't mean you don't go. That's all the more reason to go. You know, sometimes we come in, and I was like thinking on the way in, just trying to like get settled and get back, because you just feel like you're out of control. Sometimes I'm sitting there listening to 93.3, and it's like sometimes you're listening to the music, and your emotions gets with it, and you're thinking, yeah, man, God, you're great, you're awesome, you're wonderful. And other times you're hearing that same music, but you just don't want to lift your hands, and you just don't want to praise, and you just don't want to worship. What changed? Nothing but your emotions. God didn't change. He's still that same great God that He was when your emotions were high. He's still that great God that is inviting you into His presence. And just because you don't feel it doesn't mean you don't put one foot in front of the other and go there, because that's what you need. You know, it's just like when you tell your kids to do something and they look at you and they say, I don't feel like it. What you gonna say? It don't matter what you feel like. You a kid living in my house, and I'm the king, and I'm calling the shots. It doesn't matter what you feel like. You're gonna put one foot. I told my mama that one time. She slapped me and threw the book at me. Told me, she like set me straight. Quit. This is my house. I tell you to pick that coat tab up, you pick it up. whether you want to do it then or whether you want to do it later. That's what we have to do. Whether we feel like it or not, we have to follow. Isaiah 26:3 says, that will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Nehemiah 18 says, the joy of the Lord is my strength. God's telling us what to do. As he's taking us to a better place, as he's teaching us something greater, he's telling us what to do. And you know what he's telling us to do? He's telling us to get in his presence. He's telling us to come before him, to come to the throne of grace. Why? Number 3, God is turning your something sweeter. Whatever your something is in your life, he is turning it sweeter. Reminded of the story in the Old Testament where they came to the bitter waters of Marah. Maybe you've got some bitter waters in your life of some things that you're having to go through and struggle with. But you know what? God has even got a branch, a limb, a tree, a life, a person that can throw that into those bitter waters in your life, and he can make them sweet. He can. No matter how bitter it is, no matter how big the struggle is, God is turning your something sweeter. You either believe he can do it in your life or you don't. If you do believe he can do it in your life, we'll continually make those trips into his presence, into his throne. God, it's me again. Here I am at the throne of grace. And even though we beat ourselves up sometimes for the struggles that we have, it is called the throne of grace, to where he gives us what we do not deserve. He's a great, great Father, a good, good Father, that's saying, come, come,